Very nearly quite a while back, a tall African man showed up in Japan. He would proceed to turn into the principal unfamiliar conceived man to accomplish the situation with a samurai fighter, and is the subject of 2 movies being delivered by Hollywood. Known as Yasuke, the man was a hero who arrived at the position of samurai subject to Oda Nobunaga, a strong 16th century Japanese primitive ruler who was the first of the 3 unifiers of Japan. In 1579, his appearance in Kyoto, the capital at that point, created such an uproar that individuals moved north of each other to get a brief look at him, with some being killed, as per history specialist Lawrence Winkler. In no less than a year, Yasuke had joined the more elite classes of Japan's champion class, the samurai. In a little while, he was communicating in Japanese smoothly and riding close by Nobunaga in fight. His level was 6 shaku 2 sun, about 6 feet, 2 inches, 1.88 meters. He was dark, and his skin was like charcoal. An individual samurai, Matsudaira Ietada, depicted him in his journal in 1579. The typical level of a Japanese man in 1900 was 157.9 meters, 5 feet 2 inches, so Yasuke would have overshadowed most Japanese individuals in the 16th 100 years, when individuals were by and large more limited because of more regrettable sustenance. There are no records of Yasuke's date or nation of birth. Most history specialists say he came from Mozambique, however some have proposed different nations like Ethiopia or Nigeria. What is known, in any case, is that Yasuke showed up in Japan with an Italian Jesuit named Alessandro Valignano on an assessment visit, and shows up in written history just somewhere in the range of 1579 and 1582. A few specialists say he was a slave, yet it is difficult to say. Floyd Webb and Deborah Desneux, producers dealing with a narrative about him, accept statements that he was a captive to be speculative, best case scenario. It would have been outside the realm of possibilities for Yasuke to ascend to the position of a samurai in a year without a hero foundation, Ms. Desneux says. Samurais frequently started their preparation in youth. Yasuke met Nobunaga not long after his appearance in Japan, and he provoked his curiosity, the producers say, by being a gifted conversationalist. Yasuke previously talked a few Japanese, and the 2 men managed everything well, as per scholarly Thomas Lockley, who has composed a book on Yasuke. As per Mr. Lockley, Yasuke engaged Nobunaga with stories from Africa and India, where Mr. Lockley accepts Yasuke had invested some energy prior to going to Japan. Mr. Webb accepts that due to his order of the Japanese language, Yasuke would have been seen well. He was not normal for the Jesuits, who had a strict plan for the spirit of Japan, Mr. Webb says. There are reports that Nobunaga taught his nephew to provide Yasuke with an amount of cash at their absolute first gathering. French Ivorian essayist Serge Baal was so charmed by Yasuke's uncommon ascent that he composed a book about the champion. It's essential for the secret encompassing this person. That is the reason he intrigues me, he told the BBC. The African hero and the Japanese warlord shared a ton, practically speaking. Nobunaga loved the combative techniques and invested a great deal of energy rehearsing them. He was likewise a capricious individual, who, as per Mr. Webb, frequently wearing Western-style garments and looked for the organization of profoundly focused and shrewd individuals. Yasuke conveyed the hero soul, Mr. Webb says. He figured out the social language of Japan and wanted to move and perform utenzi, a notable type of Swahili story verse celebrating chivalrous deeds, Mr. Webb adds. This recommends Yasuke might have come from Mozambique, as certain antiquarians accept, considering that Swahili is as yet spoken in a few northern pieces of the country. Likewise, Nobunaga was an admirer of no-show, a type of old-style Japanese melodic dramatization, and it is broadly revealed that he was a supporter of human expression. Nobunaga became partial to Yasuke and dealt with him like family. The African was among an extremely select gathering permitted to feast with him. Nobunaga adulated Yasuke's solidarity and height, portraying his strength as that of 10 men, Ms. Desneux says. At the point when Nobunaga gave the position of samurai to Yasuke, the possibility of a non-Japanese samurai was an unheard thing of. Afterward, different outsiders would likewise acquire the title. As the principal unfamiliar conceived samurai, Yasuke took on significant conflicts close by Oda Nobunaga. He was likewise there on the pivotal night one of Nobunaga's commanders, Akechi Mitsuhide, betrayed him and set the warlord's castle land, catching Nobunaga in one of the rooms. Nobunaga took his own life by performing seppuku, a custom self-destruction. Before he committed suicide, he requested that Yasuke execute him and take his head and blade to his child, as per antiquarian Thomas Lockley. It was an indication of extraordinary trust. The legend of Yasuke reaches a conclusion soon after this, in 1582. The fall of Nobunaga because of a misleading general brought about the exile of the primary dark samurai, potentially back to a Jesuit mission in Kyoto. However, his destiny and the last long periods of his life stay obscure. Yasuke has lived on in the minds of numerous Japanese who grew up with the honor-winning kids' book Kurosuke, Kuro signifying dark in Japanese, by Kurosu Yoshio. The book, which performs Yasuke's life, closes with a self-contradicting note. After Nobunaga commits suicide, Kurosuke, Yasuke, is taken to a sanctuary where he longs for his folks in Africa and sobs. Media outlet Paper Assortment detailed in May that Dark Jaguar entertainer Chadwick Boseman is set to play Yasuke in an impending Element film. It will be the subsequent Hollywood film being created on the existence of Yasuke. In 2017, Hollywood studio Lionsgate declared it was fostering a film on the existence of the Dark Samurai. Almost 500 years after the fact, his surprising life proceeds to wonderment and move individuals.